Here. Commissioner Clayton.
Yep.
Commissioner Fox.
Here.
Commissioner Kramer.
Here.
Commissioner Jackson.
Here.
Commissioner Melton.
Here.
Commissioner Murray.
Here.
Commissioner Trickett. Commissioner Norton.
Here.
Commissioner Parr.
Here.
Commissioner Vaughn. Here. Commissioner Tomaso.
Here.
Commissioner Levy. Commissioner White. Commissioner Evans.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Look over the agenda for the meeting, and we would seek approval for that.
Chairman, at this time, I'd like to read the meeting notice.
Oh, of course.
This meeting's date, time, and location have been noticed on the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission website, included as part of this year's meeting agenda since July 13, 2016. Additionally, the agenda for this month's meeting has been posted on the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission's website since July 20, 2017. This meeting has also been noticed on the tn.gov website.
One not duly notified? Okay. Ask you to take a look again at the agenda for today's meeting.
Commissioner Jackson, a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Jackson, motion to approve, and Commissioner Vaughn, seconded. Any discussion or concerns? Hearing none, by voice vote, aye to approve the motion. Those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Thank you. And if you look over the minutes from our last quarterly meeting that was held April 24th, you should have those. If you don't, let us know. Commissioner Clayton moved to approve, seconded by Commissioner Lee. Any concerns or discussion?
Who seconded?
Commissioner Lee. All those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Approved. Hey, we have a license appeal this morning. I think his name is Stan McNabb. Mr. McNabb, would you come forward, please, sir? Do you really think you should have a dealer license?
Am I old enough to have one yet?
Come on around this way. Let you have Commissioner McNabb has served the Motor Vehicle Commission with integrity, hard work, and honor for 20 years. That might be a record, but it is as far as we're concerned today. Stan, we appreciate all your efforts to make this a better state. Actors and consumers. We appreciate your also serving as chairman of our Rules Committee. On behalf of the commission members, I thank you and have a little something for you.
Wow.
To put on your mantle.
Is this from yesterday? Anything to do with golf?
And we're going to let you keep your license for now.
All right.
Like a picture, let me come around.
Come around so
Mr.
we
Jackson
can take a
has
picture.
been on the second longest, I think 16 years, so I'll ask Mr. Jackson to come around with Commissioner McNabb and myself, have a picture with us.
When he got here.
You just stand there so we can get the seal in the
Wherever you like.
background.
What he said, I want to make sure he's got his
A
glasses
little
on.
too much gray hair for my...
Congratulations.
Yes, sir.
Jim?
Love your name.
First name, anyway. Stan McNabb. And your name is? Karen White. Karen, nice to meet you.
She knows our buddy Charles.
Oh, she knows Charles.
Yes.
I would think it
Get
good
pension
to
now.
get. Thank you very much.
20 years.
We had a hearing on your first day.
Oh, my God. They got me good.
That was long drawn out. 26 pages.
Next attack. Okay, we are ready for our license appeals. Let me get the first one here. Harry Yellen, Old Ben Franklin Motors, Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Mr.
Chairman
Yellen?
Roberts, would you like to give an overview for the appeals in the audience of what they're going to be expected to do? Or
Oh, we certainly can. But the task this morning for the commission is to look at license appeals. And appeals, licenses are by statute rejected if there is if it's been less than 5 years since probation or a sentence has been served for a felony. So the commission can waive that, so to speak, for the applicants. Those will be most of our cases today, I would assume. What we'd like for you to do is to come forward, introduce yourself, introduce a person who might have come with you as your sponsor, representative, or advocate, if you will, and tell us briefly what a description of your felony conviction, if that's the case, and how you are making efforts to qualify and to appeal your application for being a salesperson in Tennessee. We might have some dealers, but I think they're all salespeople this morning. Anything I should add to that?
we have one dealer that will be last. We'll do the salesperson applications first. And I just wanted to direct the board to number 20 on your iPad is a list of statutory references that correspond with each appeal so that the board can look at the actual statute that was violated for the particular felony of each applicant.
I would like to add, because the appellants always seem to, if their license is approved by the board, they want to know what's the next step. So if you are ultimately approved for licensure today by the commission, the staff will be in contact with you within the week to help you with the remainder of the process to become licensed.
And I will be prompting you, so you don't have to memorize all this. But, okay, we're ready now? Mr. Yellen, go right ahead, sir. Introduce yourself and who you brought with you, sir.
My name is Harry Yellen. I'm from Old Ben Franklin Motors. Doug Jenkins come with me to all of our stores.
Please speak into the mic. We are being recorded. Thank you.
What was the nature of your felony conviction, sir?
I went to prison as a teenager for a 924C. It was a federal case. It is guns in furtherance of a drug trafficking crime. Now what this is that if you have any type of weapon around any type of drug at any particular time, they consider it protecting the drugs. And so you are federally convicted and sentenced to prison.
Questions for Mr. Yellen?
Excuse me, Chairman Roberts, could we hear something from the staff in reference to this particular case?
Yes. In the case of Mr. Yellen, the documented conviction, as he said, was for possession of a firearm in furtherance of a drug trafficking crime. And this was in November of 2012. The applicant received a sentence of 60 months in prison with 5 years of supervised release. And we have listed that the application may be denied by the commission until November of 2028. Of course, you could waive that today if you so choose. In number 20 on your iPad, there's the first statutory reference should be for Mr. Yellen. Let me double check that. Oh. I apologize. Mr. Yellen's statutory reference should be on page 2, statutory reference sheet towards the bottom. And there you will see the actual statute that was violated for his conviction.
At the memorandum that we see,
The memorandum is included in the section that says Yellen on your iPad. There's a separate document number 20. It says statutory references on your iPad, and it will be on page 2 towards the bottom.
The commission had previously asked for more detail on what the violation would have actually been under the criminal code when making considerations. So the legal staff has prepared a document for your guidance, and that's what she's referring to under item 20.
Are you curious as to what it was or the amount? Is that what you're wondering?
yeah, we're looking for a description from our staff, but we have it now loaded in our iPads that tell us why your application was denied. Then we want to hear a little history from you about what led you to commit this crime and how long you served, and we know how much time you have left. But you give us a brief description while we're looking. We're a little bit of a, I should say I am struggling just a little with my iPad. So you proceed while I struggle with this. If you would, sir, just give us a description of your activity.
This is when I got arrested because there was a pistol in the vicinity of my person. Now, what I went to prison for was 1.34 grams. That is the equivalent of $130. Now, it doesn't sound like a whole lot for the charge. The charge sounds a lot worse than what I was actually caught with, but that is still my charge. And so then I went to prison for 5 years, and now I'm out and I have 5 years of probation. Because what they do is they give you 2 sentences, one to serve and one on paper.
Mr. Yellen, this is Commissioner Lee. Had you had a prior record prior to that?
Have I had a prior record?
Prior to that?
No.
Were you using the drugs or were you selling the drugs? Selling. So you referenced you got caught with a small amount. Did they just catch you with a short that day, or did you normally carry more than that?
No, where I'm from, you don't have a bunch of stuff like that. So when I mean like that, I mean high quantities. It's always small amounts of things. They just, with the feds, it is as long as you have something. It doesn't matter if you have something that is $20 worth, something that is $1 million worth. If you have any one of them things together, you're getting 5 years no matter what. It doesn't matter if it's a little amount, a big amount. It doesn't matter if you sell tons and tons of stuff or if you sell $10 worth a day. No matter what, you're going to get the least amount of time is that 5 years.
How many years were you involved in drug sales? How many drugs do you think you sold in that 2-year period, and who'd you sell it to?
Not many at all, and everyone probably twice my age, 3 times my age.
Drugs as well?
Commissioner Vaughn, I have a few questions. So you said you had no prior record before this charge?
No, I had no convictions as an adult. In school, I caught an assault charge for getting in a fight, because I was in that time frame of where if, let's say, two kids get in a fight in school, during this time they were giving out assault charges to people. That's like my little brothers are in school now, and if two kids get in a fight in school now, everyone gets assault charges. So that's what happened when I was a juvenile, but as an adult, no, I had just become an adult when I got in trouble and got sentenced and went to prison.
Had any trouble since getting out of prison?
No, me and my lady, we're doing great. I met a beautiful woman. She's great to me. We get along fine. My PO, she loves me, says I'm doing good every time I see her. I've worked 1 to 3 jobs the whole time since I've been out. Everything I do is just one step forward, one step forward, one step forward to build myself. And
Yellen, Commissioner Fox, what brought you to Old Ben Franklin Motors to apply there?
We were looking at car dealerships because my lady's the one who told me, you know, you're very peopleable, you know, you can talk to people. I think you should do this. You should be, yeah, I like cars. I like a lot about cars. I like working on cars. I should have no problem with it. So I went to different dealerships, and no one was really wanting to do nothing with me. And I seen Old Ben had an advertisement out, so I went over there, and I talked to them. They were real nice, real friendly. They actually brought me in and sat down and at least talked to me, where other places were just, nah. We can't use you here. And then they were like, yeah, we'll train you, show you what you need to do, show you how it is, what paperwork is. So that's how I started. They gave me a chance, gave me an opportunity.
There also a Knoxville location for Old Ben Franklin Motors?
Knoxville?
Knoxville?
Yes.
This is Oak Ridge.
That's where our main office is.
Locations do you have?
4 total.
4 total. Knoxville, Oak Ridge.
Maryville and Wartburg.
Questions? from
Which
the-
store will Mr. Yellen be working at? Knoxville store.
Commissioner Galvin, why do you have so much invested in him, and why are you representing him here today?
We've had relatively decent success, with people. We try to, on my end, I try to thoroughly screen people the best I can. Do I think they're a good person? Do I think they're a bad person? How do I think they're going to address customers on a long haul? The one thing about the last 2 people that have, from our store, that have come through here, to be honest, have turned out, with a little luck or a little love, I don't know which one it is, to be some of the best employees that we have. I don't know if that's based on a second opportunity and you grasp it so hard that you don't want to let it go. But the last gentleman that I was up here with, Paul Beard, I don't know if y'all remember, that was about a year ago. Maybe less, I can't remember. Doing absolutely phenomenal for our company. There's your guy that got a second chance. I've been in the car business for 30 years, and I don't know about, when you see the average person applying a car job, it's almost as if, well, I think I may try cars for a little while, and if that don't work out, I've got multiple other avenues I want to pursue. That's why you see the turnover that you get in the car industry so much. I look for people that are long-term committed, that I feel like, hey, this person, if we invest time with them, that they'll give us back the same amount of time in their commitment to the dealership. If Mr. Yellen, if y'all grant him a sales license, if he doesn't facilitate what we want to represent and what we want to do as a dealership, you don't have to worry about him staying there very long. I mean, I feel like to a level of holding accountability to the standards of our salespeople and how we treat and meet and go through our process with our customers, that I'm going to hold him to a standard that he'll either abide by or he won't last very long at our store. And I feel like people that are truly committed, that want to provide, make great livings for their family, make the car business a career, a long-term career, not just a short-term investment. Rasheed Bailey was up here probably 2.5 years ago. We just moved him, into the business office side. He's doing a phenomenal job. This guy is 1,000% committed to our company and what we've done for him as much as, we're committed to him and what he's done for us. But I can assure you guys that, we get lots of applicants that we do turn aside. It's like, the dress, the mannerisms, the fit, the feel just isn't what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people that can be well-groomed, well-versed, polite to customers, respectful to customers in the long term. If they do that, they're going to be successful at our dealership. If they do not do that, one, they're not going to be successful, but B, I'm not going to tolerate it. I tell my salespeople all the time, there's 3 colors. There's white, there's black, and there's gray, which basically when I mean that is when you make representations to a customer, we try to get it all on a due bill. I owe it to you. When I put representations on that paperwork and I say, hey, this car is as is, or we're willing to do this but not this, then that's what we're going to fix. And as a salesperson, if you leave anything in the gray, and I'll use an example of a gray as like a guy goes, I love this car, but now those brakes have got a little rattle to them. And the salesman goes, well, don't worry about it, I'll check on that. Then next thing you know, they go in there and buy the car, and 3 hours later, the customer goes, hey, remember those brakes you're going to check on? Well, we're not just checking on the brakes, I'm fixing those brakes, because there was not proper disclosure made as to whether or not, oh, I didn't tell you I was going to fix them, I told you I was going to look at it. No, we're fixing them. And I've always lived through those guidelines at a dealership, and that's what I was at 28 years at Ted Russell Ford, and I think I told you all the example before, and I've went to OBEN since then. If you look at our Google reviews, I promise you our Google reviews are going to be as high as any used car lot in Tennessee or close to it. I think we're a 4.4 the last time I looked on a lot of reviews, and we're dealing with secondary customers, which the expectations of the cars and the customers are totally different than what they were when I was at Ted Russell Ford. So I'm going to hold this man to a high standard on my end. It'll be up to his end to withhold his end of the bargain, whether or not that's going to be a long-term successful relationship or whether it be a short-term relationship. But I can assure you that, I will hold him up to the standards that he needs to be for you all to be acceptable of what's going to take place.
And a follow-up is, how long has he been working for you, and what is he doing right now?
Right now, in the he's just working as a BDC person. We've got for all of our stores, we have a facilitation for emails and all that stuff. So we switched him up there to that. In May, I'm wanting to say, to try to get a hearing before you guys. So that's, whether or not, I can hold on to him for that or not. He can make a small living there, but you're not going to get rich answering emails and filling out that line of work. I feel like this young man, can be a pretty good car salesman. I think he can be successful, at our car dealership. But that's going to be, obviously at your all's hands to decide. All I can do is tell you that I will hold him to the standards that you all need to be held at if he works in the car business for us.
So the question was, how long has he worked for you? Since May?
That was April, maybe.
April
Somewhere around
2017?
April.
This past April? Well, my follow-up question is this then. How can you determine just how good he really is of him working with you for that short of time, especially with all of the comments that you just made about your dealership and the backgrounds? And
in all honesty, none of us can predict how well, in the end, a car salesman is going to be. I've interviewed thousands of people in there, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be unbelievable. This is a great hire, and never, ever works out very well. And then on the other end, there's a guy that worked for me for 20 years, 22 years at Ted Russell Ford named Doug Peak. I remember he was the quirkiest, unique individual I've ever met in my entire life. And I remember he probably hadn't been there for 30 days. I'm like, who in the world has hired this guy? My gosh. You know, and next thing I know, this guy's the #1 salesman at the dealership with the highest customer satisfaction that's probably ever been at one of my dealerships for my sales representatives. You know, so at the end, you know, there is a fine line and a guideline that nobody can put a finger on. If they can, this would be such an easy business. If you could just go out and touch 20 car salesmen, one right after another, and place them at your dealership, we would all be rich. So is there a guarantee that I can guarantee that this guy's going to be successful? No. All I can guarantee is that I'm going to try to make him successful. I like his mannerisms. I like the way he handles himself. He's well liked. Does that turn him into a great car salesman at the end of the day? No. No, that'll come from hard work and atoning your skill level throughout the process to try to become a professional car salespeople, which is something, you know, we all know is far and few between in this industry anymore, is the true car professionals that there were 20, 25 years ago.
Further questions?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the license.
Motion to approve the license by Commissioner Vaughn, seconded by, who was that? Commissioner Clayton. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing no discussion, chair calls for roll call vote. Aye will be for the motion. No will be not for the motion.
Chairman Roberts,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Galvin,
No.
Commissioner Clayton, Commissioner Fox,
Aye.
Commissioner Kramer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Melton,
Aye.
Commissioner Murray, Commissioner Norton,
No.
Commissioner Parr,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Commissioner Tomaso,
Aye.
Commissioner White, Commissioner Evans.
Well, you'll be granted a license. Contact, when do you want them to contact the office? if they're
The staff
approved?
will be in contact with him within the next week.
Okay, staff will be in contact.
Thank you all very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Randall Powers, Athens Auto Sales.
And, excuse me, Chairman Roberts, to start, I'm just going to read the brief introductory memo
Yeah.
into the record.
Okay.
Thank you. And the papers that Vanessa passed out is in substitution for Section 20 on your iPad, so you don't have to flip back and forth between documents. I apologize, they are not in order, but it does have the applicant's name as the first part before their statutory reference. In the case of Mr. Powers, the documented conviction is for the initiation of the process to manufacture methamphetamine on April 14, 2014. Applicant received a sentence of 8 years of probation. It is recommended to the Commission to deny the application under Tennessee Code Annotated 55-17-114A1C until April of 2029.
Powers, could you describe for the commission what led you to this felony?
What was the question again, please?
Describe the circumstances which led you to the to this white for this felonious activity.
To felonious activity, okay. There was a period of time that I had started receiving some opiate pain pills, and I got addicted to those, and the prescription ended, and so I started to manufacture methamphetamine as an alternate source of drug. I was addicted. I had an addiction problem, and I got arrested for manufacturing methamphetamine.
Selling and using.
I was just using.
Just using. Methamphetamine is a substitute for opioid. I'm not familiar with.
Not a substitute, but it's another type of drug, another narcotic.
Think of Were you married at the time? Did you have a family?
I was at the time, not anymore.
Okay. Did you share any of these manufactured drugs with anyone, any children, minors, or anything like that?
Ever.
Okay. Questions by the commission?
Powers, this is Commissioner Lee. What got you started on the opioids to start with?
Had some dental work, had some dental work and had some opiates prescribed to me. And they went away. Obviously, the prescription ran out and went for something else.
Dental, wouldn't it only have been a few days or a week at the most?
Yes, it was. Like a 30-day supply.
30 days? What kind of dental work did you have done?
Teeth pulled.
Commissioner Norton, can you tell us about your rehabilitation?
Yes. I went to a place called Miracle Lake Training Center located in Etowah, Tennessee for a 60-day rehabilitation program. I completed that August 6, 2016. I brought a packet today that included all this to support all this stuff that I'm going to tell you today. But I was baptized July 30th of last year, 2016, at Miracle Lake. I completed the program August 6th. I have a certificate to prove that in my packet.
Welcome to pass that around, sir. Commissioner Vaughn looks like will accommodate that.
If it was only for your own use, how did you get caught?
Well, I was buying the maximum amount of pseudoephedrine. It's a pharmaceutical used to manufacture, and it was over the counter, but yet controlled by the DTF, and they were monitoring that, and they saw that I purchased my maximum amount. I was using a large amount of it, and I was making the meth with the pharmaceutical over-the-counter drug, and the drug task force was monitoring that, and they saw that I was purchasing the maximum amount allowed by law, and they came and caught me with the lab.
This is Commissioner Melton. What are you doing now to sustain or maintain your healthy lifestyle?
Well, like I said, I went to Miracle Lake there. I went there for rehab. While there, I received repentance, and I changed my mind about the lifestyle I was going to live, and I changed my heart. I'm a different person now, and I go to church every time the doors are open. I'm an active member of Celebrate Recovery. There's a letter from the facilitator of Celebrate Recovery, Star Pickett, that describes my character witness in there. I'm a drug abuse counselor now for the Celebrate Recovery program at the Inglewood Church of God. We meet on a weekly basis. I go to each weekly meeting, and I help others who had the same problem I had in the past, and use my experience to help them to come off that abusive lifestyle pattern.
Did you bring an advocate with you or sponsor?
I have Ray Priest. He's the owner of Athens Auto Sales.
Sir, would you like to address the commission on Mr. Powers'
I apologize. I'm a little hard of hearing.
Would you like to address the commission on Mr. Powers' behalf?
I certainly would. I've known Randy since he was in the first grade of school. He lived in the same neighborhood that I grew up in. My children, he's the age of my children, and I spanked his little rear end back in those days, and I'm not beyond doing that again today. But what this package that you see, you will also see a letter from the sheriff, Joe Guy from McMinn County, Tennessee, a letter of recommendation. You will also see a letter from the Tennessee Wesleyan University psychologist teacher, who is Dr. Dick Pelly, who is also on the city council in Athens, Tennessee, and the vice mayor, a letter of recommendation. And what I have seen with Randy, I've known his parents for 60 years, grew up with them, and I have seen him be one of the most successful used car salesmen in our area, and did it for many years. I was in the furniture manufacturing business as a sales manufacturer's representative for 45 years in the state of Tennessee and over the South. I retired 10 years ago, and there's only so much golf that you can play and so much traveling that you can do, and I've traveled all my life, don't want to do that, so I turned around and bought myself a job. And I'm there 6 days a week from 8:30 in the morning to 6 o'clock at night, along with Randy, 6 days a week. But he has truly, truly come into a mind of his own and has accepted God as his leader, not some individual. I don't know if you did not hear Randy say that anybody else influenced him in this manufacturing, but I can assure you that he had a couple of real bad influences, which those people are no longer in his life and would not be. So, is there any other questions?
Circulating some documents, so we want to give that ample opportunity. Comments?
I have more copies, Chairman Roberts.
Okay, sir. Is it this copy of the same? You might start that on this end. It might save some time.
How long have you been working back with where you are now?
I've just been there a couple of months, but I can't sell cars. I have to wash cars now because I was denied my application for an automobile salesman license.
I have a question, Commissioner Norton. Have you ever been incarcerated prior to this incident?
I got arrested for driving on suspended license once.
What were your license suspended for?
Failure to pay a speeding ticket.
Been all around this way. Let me pass it. We'll pass this one down. Let them all wind up at the same place.
We have this side covered pretty well, so.
I stayed about 5 months before I pled out to the charge. The sentence was suspended on time served, and I just received probation, and I'm on that until 2022. I have a letter from my probation parole officer from Tennessee Department of Corrections attached there with his recommendation also.
Your probation require drug testing, and how often?
It does, and it's on a random basis. I've been tested about 2 months ago, about once a year.
Assuming you passed the first test?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's an automatic violation.
Any questions about the documents being passed around? We're just about finished passing those around. Chair would entertain a motion at almost any time now.
Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve Mr. Powers' license.
I second it.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Fox, seconded by Commissioner Melton. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing no discussion, Chair calls for roll call vote. Aye will be for the motion, and no will be against the motion.
Chairman Roberts,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Galvin,
Aye.
Commissioner Clayton, Commissioner Fox,
Aye.
Commissioner Kramer, Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Melton,
Aye.
Commissioner Murray, Commissioner Norton,
Aye.
Commissioner Parr,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn, Commissioner Tomaso, Commissioner White, Commissioner Evans. Motion carries.
Congratulations, Mr. Powers. The office will be contacting you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Tatiana Wilkins, Wolf Chase Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Bartlett, Tennessee.
In the case of Mrs. Wilkins, the documented conviction is for TennCare fraud on April 4th, 2016. Applicant received a sentence of 4 years of supervised probation. It is recommended that the Commission deny this application. This application may be denied under Tennessee Code Annotated 55-17-114-A1C until April of 2025. It should also be noted that Ms. Wilkins was ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $10,501 to the state of Tennessee.
Morning, Ms. Wilkins. You might move forward just a little to the microphone. Okay. What led you to this activity that got you in trouble?
At that point, I had lost my job, and I had lost my insurance for my child. So I had started getting food stamps and TennCare. And when I started back working, I was part-time. Part-time health insurance was too much that I couldn't afford it. So I was still getting TennCare from the state of Tennessee. And my son was very sick. He was in and out of the hospital. So when I got full-time, I did eventually drop TennCare and put my son and myself on full insurance. And about 2 years later, I received a phone call saying that I was being investigated for TennCare fraud. Since then, I'm still working. Actually have 2 jobs. I had the one at the dealership, and I also work at the casino. So since then, I have been paying restitution, probation, and everything is going fine.
In the fraud, what did you receive from TennCare?
Just health insurance. Like it'll pay for when he was in the hospital, getting surgeries and everything.
Fraud TennCare, do you receive medical coverage? Are you getting pills? Are you getting money?
Medical coverage.
You get medical coverage. Nothing went into your pocket, so to speak. Okay.
So the restitution is there will be the cost of the medical insurance that was provided.
How's that coming along?
I pay it every month, $250 every month.
Good. Questions?
Have you had any prior arrest before this incident?
I'd like to make a motion we approve the sales license.
Motion to approve the license for Ms. Wilkins, seconded by Commissioner Lee. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Chair calls for a roll call vote. Aye would be for the motion, no would be opposed to the motion. Ms. Shaw.
Chairman Roberts,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Galvin,
Aye.
Commissioner Clayton, Commissioner Fox,
Aye.
Commissioner Kramer, Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Melton,
Aye.
Commissioner Murray, Commissioner Norton, Commissioner Parr, Commissioner Vaughn, Commissioner Tomaso, Commissioner White, Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Congratulations, Ms. Wilkins. Good luck to you. Good luck to you, ma'am. Brian Keith Russell. Secret City, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
In the case of Mr. Russell, the documented conviction is for theft on October 15th, 2012. Applicant received a sentence of 4 years of probation. It is recommended that the Commission deny this application. This application may be denied under Tennessee Code Annotated 5517-114A1C until October of 2021. It should also be noted that Mr. Russell indicated no on his application to the question regarding having ever been convicted of a crime or felony.
Russell, why did you commit this felony? What led you down this road?
Many years of prescription pill abuse. It led me to
Please speak into the mic.
A little closer to the mic, if you would, sir. You'll see this red light go off if you're able to be heard.
Okay, thank you.
Back up a couple of a paragraph or so as to for the question.
There was many years of prescription pill abuse that led to the theft crime. Theft was some farm property out of a old barn that used to belong to my grandfather.
Grandfather's farm equipment?
I'm sorry?
It was your grandfather's?
Yes, that my dad had wanted, but there was other stuff before that led up to the theft of that, and I guess the court systems had decided that that was enough. You know, you're
How do you come to that? What's your state of mind when you steal from your grandfather? Were you?
Oh, it was my dad had sold my grandfather's property after my grandfather had passed away, and there was still some old plows and stuff inside the barn that he wanted. I went over there to get them, and a few weeks later I was charged with theft over $500.
Went to get them, you then sold them?
My dad had already sold the property, but there was still some things in the barn that he wanted, and I went and got them. Yes. I'm sorry? I think I checked the box no, yes. It's, I don't know, when you have a felony conviction, it's just really hard trying to find employment. I've been selling cars for about 17 years of it, and I'm really good at it, so it's just something I love to do.
Said this was, there were some things prior to this that led up to this. What were those things that?
There were other charges and stuff. I was in and out of the court systems for a while during my prescription pill abuse.
Where did you sell cars for 17 years prior?
Worked at Rogers Ford Chevrolet, which used to be in Lenore City. They're not there anymore. I actually worked for Mr. Fox for a few months at Fox Chevrolet in Oak Ridge.
Make that clear, was my kinfolk.
Oh, your kinfolk, I'm sorry.
Not that I'm trying, I just want to make it clear for the record.
Oh, okay. I worked at Oben Franklin. I've worked for Mr. Clayton at CNN Used Cars for about 4 years.
You were licensed in all those instances?
Licensed now through Clayton Motors.
Your license now, and you're applying to transfer to a different dealership. How does that come up?
Yes.
Vaughn, I have a couple of questions. Have you had any trouble since this conviction?
No, I have letters from my probation officer, from my pastor at church. Have a copy of
drugs or anything?
6 years.
Might be some questions on the license status itself. Could we had Mr. Russell's comment on that. Could the staff comment on that license?
We can check on the actual license status, but according to our requirements and our laws, once you leave the employment of a dealership, that salesperson's license is basically in an inactive state. A salesperson's license is not an independent license. It has to be affiliated with a relationship back to a dealership. So the moment, though he may have a document with a current date on it, it would not be active unless it was actively attached in an active relationship to another dealership. And basically that's what is occurring. He's applied for to attach to another dealership using that existing license number. And though the information that was indicated on the application said no, there's not a felony conviction, we do go through a process to identify whether or not a felony conviction had occurred, and at that point it was detected. And so that's why the applicant is before you today.
Scenario that a salesperson worked at a dealership and was charged with a felony, and while the charges were being investigated, I guess he'd still be fined.
The statute is based on your conviction date or the expiration of it's from your conviction date or the completion of all probation or parole. And that it goes from conviction date, not charge date, because you're presumed innocent until you're proven guilty. And if they are convicted of a felony, they are required by statute to notify us within 60 days in writing and request a hearing before this commission in order to have that consideration made. Otherwise, it is inactive, even if they stay with the same dealership.
Could we hear from your sponsor?
Barry Birchfield, he's owner/general sales manager at Secret City Chrysler Jeep.
Birchstone? Is that your Birchstone?
Birchfield. Barry Birchfield.
Birchfield. Thanks, sir. Mr. Birchfield. Tell the commission why you think that Mr. Russell would.
Well, I'm standing up here today for Mr. Keith Russell. I got to know him, and I would not got to know him if he would have marked down on his application if he had a felony. We kind of, I'm business partners with Adam White, okay? His dad's Doug White. And anything, if they come across with felonies on the record, we do a background check and all that. Well, at the time when we purchased the dealership, me and Adam, we didn't have the background stuff set in place, so of course we didn't background check Mr. Russell or a few others. But now since we got the background in check, so we go through that thorough investigation part of when we hire people. But to go back to Mr. Russell is, I got to know Mr. Russell, talked to him, talked to his family. He's got 3 kids of his own, and his wife's got 3 kids. I've been to dinner with him. Everybody, no, I'm not going to say everybody, but some people make a bad choice in life, and some people don't get that second chance. And, his second chance was he didn't mark it, he had a felony on his record. And does that make it okay? No, it don't. But I stand up here in front of you all today and ask to give Mr. Russell another chance.
Questions by Commissioner?
Commissioner Galvin, Mr. Russell, one quick question. How long or how many dealerships did you work prior to this one?
Five or six in a total of 17 years.
Out of the 5 and 6, were they sales positions? Yes, sir. And out of the 5 or 6, they just didn't work out, or I'm just curious of why you transferred to so many dealerships.
Worked in finance. I've worked the desk. I've pretty much done it all.
Chairman, I've known Mr. Birchfield for a long time, and he runs a first-class operation. And I think I don't think you've ever been here with an applicant before, have you? And I think if he thinks enough of this man to bring him down here, I'm going to make a motion that we approve his license.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Fox to grant the license, seconded by Commissioner Vaughn. Any discussion of the motion?
The only thing I want to say is, while I'm not condoning the fact that you marked no on the application, that was, that. I have to say I agree with the fact that.
Hearing none, Chair calls roll call vote. Aye would be in favor of the motion, no would be opposed to the motion.
Chairman Roberts.
Aye.
Commissioner Lee.
No.
Commissioner Galvin. Commissioner Clayton. Commissioner Fox.
Aye.
Commissioner Kramer. Commissioner Jackson.
Aye.
Commissioner Melton.
Aye.
Commissioner Murray.
Aye.
Commissioner Norton.
No.
Commissioner Parr.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Commissioner Tomaso.
Aye.
Commissioner White.
Aye.
Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Artis D. Armstrong, One Choice Auto, Columbia, Tennessee. Artis D. Armstrong.
In the case of Mr. Armstrong, the documented conviction is for the sale of a firearm to a convicted felon. This conviction involves the mens rea of knowing or having reasonable cause to believe that the sale was to a convicted felon. On June 20th, 2014, Mr. Armstrong received a sentence of 18 months imprisonment and a consecutive supervised probation term of 1 year for his conviction. It appears that this conviction can likely be found to be a crime involving moral turpitude. Thus, it is recommended that the application should be denied under Tennessee Code Annotated 5517-114A1C. The Commission may deny this application until approximately December of 2021.
Armstrong is apparently not here. Is there a motion?
Commissioner Jackson, motion that we adopt the staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jackson to uphold the staff denial, and seconded by Commissioner Vaughn. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do this by voice vote. Those in favor of the motion to uphold the denial would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Jaden Scroggins Thompson. Review Motors, Nashville. Morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
We're going to hear from the staff attorney, and then we'll hear from you, sir.
In the case of Mr. Scroggins Thompson, the documented conviction is for manufacturing, selling, or delivering marijuana on August 21st, 2014. Applicant received a sentence of 8 years of probation. The Commission may deny the application under Tennessee Code Annotated 5517-114A1C until August of 2027.
August Thompson, were you dealing or using or both? What was your activity like?
Well, my activity was I was addicted to marijuana. I was using marijuana a lot. I got involved with the wrong people, in that process. And sometimes I would sell some of my product just to be able to make my habit affordable, to where I wasn't basically spending money to keep my habit going.
You were selling, did you sell to?
Yes, I sold.
You sold, okay. Did you
Yes.
sell to any minors?
To support my habit.
Okay. Were you selling to any minors?
No, sir.
Okay. All right.
Vaughn, did you sell anything besides marijuana? Was it any
No,
sort of...
marijuana was my choice of drug use. So to support my habit, I would just sell that to, my peers, people that were around me and stuff, just to where I wasn't spending so much money to be able to smoke. I come from a pretty rough background. I didn't really have any guidance as a child. I was real lost. I didn't know who I was. I committed this crime when I was about 20 years old. I was still searching for myself all throughout high school up until I turned about 20 years old. I didn't really know what I wanted to be. I didn't think I had a future. I lived in a house that was just drug use everywhere. I moved away from my family at a young age. I've been through so much, and I turned to marijuana. Not to try to make an excuse for it. I accept all responsibility of what I've done. I'm very remorseful and very apologetic for what I've done. But as a weak-minded child, going through what I was going through, it caused me to turn to something to cope with all the things I was going through. And marijuana was my choice, a drug, and I would just distribute it to friends and people like that, and it just got me in a bad situation. Since then, this was about 3.5, 4 years ago. Since then, I've been clean. I've never failed a drug test. I haven't been in any trouble. I've completed drug and alcohol class. And I really got through it as well as prayer has helped me get through it. I also had a temper growing up, so marijuana would help me with that. I had a domestic case when I was very young, and I went to anger management for that as well, to rehabilitate for that. And since then, I haven't gotten any trouble. My probation officer loved me, and I'm prepared to take a drug test and pass that today as well, if that would help.
Give us an idea of your employment history for the last few years.
My employment history, since the case, or since I was 18.
Prior to the case.
Well, I've really been more into restaurants. When I first turned 18 and 19 and stuff, I did a lot of factory jobs and stuff like that. Didn't really like it at all. Then I turned to restaurants. I worked at a fast food restaurant till I was about 20, 21 years old. And then after my case, the case I had caught, I started turning my life around. I rehabilitated, and then after I was done rehabilitating, I started working back in restaurants, and then I eventually became a general manager of a restaurant because they loved, the fact that I was turning my life around, and they seen the growth. So I ran a restaurant for about 2 years, and then I recently parted ways from the restaurant due to ownership change, and and now I have another opportunity to be able to support my family working at a dealership, because it's pretty hard to try to find a good paying job with the hours I need, because when my mother passed in about a month and a half, 2 months ago, I've now taken on custody of my 6-year-old sister, as well as having a son. So I need a job to where I can, work during the day and be home at night, as well as make enough money to be able to support my sister and my son. And I think working in the car dealership and doing something I love to do, because I've always loved cars. I really never put two and two together to where I just figured out that this is my calling, to sell cars. And I walked into a dealership, filled out an application, told them my story, and they really loved me, and they wanted to give me a chance. So I was hoping you guys would too.
Brought someone with you today?
Yes, I brought Tamisha Collier. She's the owner of Riverview Motors.
And would you like to address the commission?
I've known Mr. Scroggins for a very long time, and I've known his family, and he's come a very long way. He's really trying to better himself, and like he said, he just lost his mother a month and a half ago. So for a 24-year-old to take on the responsibility of raising a 6-year-old on top of a child, then that says a lot, and he's really improving and doing a great job with his life. So I hope that you all will.
What type of dealership do you have, ma'am?
I have a car dealership. We just opened up recently. It's on Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. It's called Rearview Motors, and I have two other salesmen that I'm looking at as well, and I would like for him to be a part of it.
How long have you been, you opened up when?
And we just opened up. It's official. It started on June 1st, but I've been in the process since April, and I just got my dealer's license and my sales license.
Welcome to the car business.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions for any of these folks?
Mr. Scroggins, Thompson, Commissioner Tomaso, what was the circumstances, what was the process by which you took custody of your sister? What was the process you went through to do that?
Well, the process was my mom, she was real sick, and this was part of the reason I adapted, the lifestyle I was picking up. My mom, since I don't even remember, she was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and that's all I seen. And I just came a product of my environment. So about 4 months ago, my mom, she was hospitalized due to, her body was just giving out due to everything that she was putting into her body. So there was a big DCS case, and the kids. Matter of fact, I had all 3 kids because my mom had 5 kids. Me, my younger brother, he's 21, and then 3 minors. So I took the 3 little girls, and then I had them for about a couple months. I wanted to keep them with me so I can keep the girls together, and then that didn't work out because their dad wanted them, so they moved to California. And then so it was about a 3-month process to where we got custody of my little sister, and had already had her right before my mom died because she was real sick and we seen it coming, but then right after she died, they just gave it straight over.
Series of interviews and in-home visits.
There's still in-home. Well, no, there's not in-home visits anymore. That stopped probably because she died a month and a half ago, so that stopped right before she died because there's no DCS involved at all anymore. But before that, yes, there were a lot of home visits. I didn't have to do any drug screens. I do drug screens already, but they just wanted to. They did interview the judge character and make sure everything was okay to bring all 3 girls, because I had all 3 at first, and the littlest one I didn't really have to go through much of that because she was already passed.
Further questions? Here.
Commissioner Jackson, I motion that we grant him the license.
Second.
Jackson, motion to grant the license. Commissioner Shaver, seconds. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Chair calls for a roll call vote. Aye will be for the motion, and no will be against it. Ms. Shaw.
Chairman Roberts.
Aye.
Commissioner Lee.
Aye.
Commissioner Galvin.
Aye.
Commissioner Clayton. Commissioner Fox.
Aye.
Commissioner Kramer.
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson.
Aye.
Commissioner Melton.
Aye.
Commissioner Murray.
Aye.
Commissioner Norton.
Aye.
Commissioner Parr.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn. Commissioner Tomaso.
Aye.
Commissioner White.
Aye.
Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
Motion carries.
August.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Welcome to the automobile business to both of you. Okay, Patrick McDaniel, Riverside Motors, Murfreesboro. Morning, gentlemen. Ms. Goldstein.
In the case of Mr. McDaniel, the documented conviction is for conspiracy to manufacture and distribute methamphetamine on March 4th, 2010. Applicant received a sentence of 4 years of supervised probation. Application may be denied under Tennessee Code Annotated 5517-114A1C until March of 2019.
Mr. McDaniel, what led you down this path?
Well, sir, I grew up in the car business. My father was in the new car business, and in 1995 he had a plane crash and was deceased. And my life kind of spiraled a little bit then, because I guess I used alcohol to cope, and got a couple of DUIs. And then in '07 I tried methamphetamine, worst mistake of my life, but it really sent me in a spiral. I was hanging around the wrong people I shouldn't, never been around, and they were in a big investigation, and I wound up in it. And I never sold the drugs, I just did it. And it was just probably the worst time of my life, because I really had an opportunity in life to do good, and it just didn't end up that way. Actually, going to prison was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in my life, because if I didn't go, I know I probably wouldn't even be here today. It was that bad. To me, it was. You know,
from an alcohol addiction to methamphetamine addiction.
Yeah, you know, yeah. When I tried that, which was something I should have never ever done, it was just like something. I was like, well, you know.
What were you doing for employment up to this time?
Employment, I worked for Prestige Cars in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
How long were you there, sir?
I've been there for a little over a year.
Prior to that?
Prior to that, I mean, I've worked at Toyota of Cleveland, Piacra. I wholesaled after that for a while for Mr. Capehart. You know, there was some time where I didn't work when I was, you know, messing up. But it's all I know. I mean, it's all I, you know, it's the only career I've ever, you know, thought I could do, is sell cars.
Family to sport, or are you
yes.
single, family of sport, or what's your status?
I have a wife. I have a mother and a sister. I get great support from. I just would like to have a chance to get back into what I love. And Mr. Capehart, who I've been working for a year, told me, you know, Patrick, you have to show me. You know what I mean? You stay here, you deliver cars, help out, take them to service, wash cars if need be. And he gave me that opportunity. As soon as I got out, he said, I'm going to give you a chance. He was friends with my father, too, best friends with my father. And, you know, he gave me that opportunity, and I feel like I've showed him that, you know, I will succeed. You know, drugs is no more part of my life. When I got indicted, it scared me to death. You know what I mean? It wasn't like getting pulled over for a DUI. It was serious. And it made me realize, hey, you know, I hurt my mom. I come from a great family. You know, that's just, I hurt them, and it was really a life lesson and a wake-up call. And I just want to keep proving to everybody that I can still do it.
Gentlemen, you brought with you like to address the commission.
I also brought some character references from some dealers too.
If you start that over here, we'll do that while
copies.
while we hear from the other gentlemen. Then we'll see if we have some questions. Sir, would you like to address the commission?
My name's Eddie Capehart. I own Prestige Cars in Chattanooga since 1988. I've known Patrick since he was a baby. In fact, his dad was my best friend. He comes from a very good family background. Some of you new car dealers may remember the name Paul McDaniel. He was GM for John Hicks for years, and then he went to Nelson Bowers Transportation Group, and he was in Nelson's plane actually when he got killed. So Patrick comes from a car selling background, and when all this happened to Patrick, of course, it devastated his family and his friends as well, because everybody loves Patrick. They know where he came from, and in the South we all think that acorns don't fall far from the tree. And anyway, Paul, my best friend, I wanted to do what I could do for Patrick, so I stayed in touch with him while he was away, and we communicated by letter. And I told him when he got back that if he wanted to start from the bottom, he could start from the bottom, and he could work for me for a year, but there was rules and conditions. I've had that business in April will be our 30th year, and I'm proud of it. We've not had any complaints from Better Business Bureau at all. I mean, not even a complaint. So that's a pretty good record. I run a tight ship, and I told Patrick, this ain't the enforcement that you get 3 strikes and you're out. With me, Patrick, you're going to get 1 strike, and then if I hear one negative thing, I've got 2 sons as well about Patrick's age, so I'm too old to know the signs and keep up with the younger generation. But I told my boys, and they both work for me and have for years, keep up with Patrick. I want to know everything he's doing. And Patrick's a different person than when he left here, and he's worked hard. Anything from washing cars, helping us pick up cars at service, deliver to service, anything we had to do. And I'd like to give him the opportunity to sell cars, because he's well qualified from a real background, and Patrick's paid his dues, and I would encourage each one of you, I hope, to vote for him to get his license.
Chairman, I would move, there's a letter in there from Brent Morgan. I don't know if you all know Brent Morgan, but it's very rare that he even says in that letter that he writes a recommendation, but based strictly on that letter, I would say that we accept.
I would second that for the same reason.
Yeah. Thank you.
We have a motion to grant the license, Commissioner Lee, seconded by Commissioner Vaughn. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Chair calls for roll call vote. Aye would be for the motion. No would be against the motion. Ms. Shaw.
Chairman Roberts.
Aye.
Commissioner Lee.
Aye.
Commissioner Galvin.
Aye.
Commissioner Clayton. Commissioner Fox.
Aye.
Commissioner Kramer. Commissioner Jackson.
Aye.
Commissioner Melton.
Aye.
Commissioner Murray.
Aye.
Commissioner Norton.
Aye.
Commissioner Parr.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn. Commissioner Tomaso.
Aye.
Commissioner White. Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Congratulations, sir. Thank you. Mitchell Timothy Horn. Mr. Horn.
In the case of Mr. Horn, the documented conviction is for sale of a controlled substance on December 11, 2011. Applicant received a sentence totaling 4 years to the Tennessee Department of Corrections and Probation. It is recommended that the Commission deny the application under Tennessee Code Annotated 5517-114A1C until December of 2020.
Horn, welcome. Tell us what led to this activity that you got into.
I was working at Cookville Honda in Cookville, Tennessee. I had a car wreck, tore my knee up, was prescribed pain medication. There was a guy that I worked with for probably over 4 years. I don't know if you want me to mention his name or not. It's Chris. Anyways, make a long story short, he wanted some of my pain medication. I didn't want to give it to him. He kept on. He was more than a coworker. We played golf together, hung out together, and he eventually wore me down. I tried to give him some pain medication. He insisted that he pay me, and it's what it was. He had gotten a DUI and had agreed to cooperate with the police, and it's on the audio and videotape, me trying to just say, look, I don't want your money. Anyways, he put the money down, and I said, whatever, just leave it. To make a long story short, I'm no drug dealer, never have been. I don't use illegal drugs. This medication was doctor prescribed, tore an ACL in my left knee, and that's what's got me here.
Revisit that, what that conviction was for again.
On delivery of Schedule 2.
Selling cars when this occurred.
Yes, sir. And I'd worked with Chris at Heritage Ford in Cookeville, Cookeville Nissan, and Cookeville GMC, which is no longer in business. Like I said, we knew each other for years.
Have you had any trouble since this conviction?
No, ma'am. No.
Okay.
When is he eligible? Was it 2020? Is that
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
is he eligible in what year?
The commission can deny him up until, excuse me.
Oh, I see,
one second.
2021.
December of 2020.
December of 20.
I have a question.
Sure.
One question, Commissioner Norton. So you've had only one sales transaction that you were caught selling drugs?
It was 2 days in a row. He had, it was like the next week before I went back to the doctor, and that was the reason I didn't, I told him, I said, Chris, I've only got a few left. I've got a week to go back to the doctor. And I said, I don't even want to get rid of them anyway. They'll only sell you any. And when he had called me, he said he hurt his back and couldn't go to work. So that was his reasoning for getting my pain pills. And he said, I had 2 of them with me at the time, and he said, would you please give me 4? And I said, Chris, I'll give them to you. I don't want your money. You don't have to pay for them. So I brought him 2 the next day, and that's where the sale and delivery came into it.
Was this all from the original prescription?
Yes, sir.
One time, 30 days supply? What did you?
Pardon me?
How many pills are in this prescription that you had enough to give away?
Oh, goodness.
A month or 2 or something?
No, sir. I needed surgery on my knee. I didn't have insurance, so I was on the pain pills for a few months, but I think my doctor prescribed me like 45 in a month, 45 pain pills.
How much money was exchanged?
He gave me $40.
And how much did that prescription cost you?
Pardon me?
How much did that prescription cost you?
Oh, goodness. That was 6 or 7 years ago. It was 100 and something, 180, something like that.
At first you said you didn't want any money, and then you finally took money. What?
He just laid it down. I mean, he practically forced it on me. And I told him twice I did not want his money. I said, Chris, I'll just give them to you. You know, if you need them that badly, I'll give them to you. If there wasn't any money exchanged, then he wouldn't have been able to get a conviction on me for sale and delivery. It would have been a casual exchange misdemeanor charge, which, like as I stated before, he was trying to get himself out of a DUI, is what he was doing.
it seems to be a missing part in here someplace. You're either a missing part or you're the unluckiest guy that ever handled drugs.
Well, I'm 48 years old. I've got a college degree from Tennessee Tech where I attended on a baseball scholarship. I've held a professional job. I graduated in 1991 from Tennessee Tech. I've held a professional job ever since then. This is my one and only felony. I mean, maybe I am the unluckiest guy in the world. You know, the guy, Chris Frucci, happened to know me. He happened to know I had pain medication. He saw a quick and easy way to get himself out of trouble is what it boils down to.
Self out of trouble by taking...
Setting me up.
Setting him up, man.
Oh, I see. Yeah, he was
Yeah, he was working with the police to get himself out of trouble.
and the trouble he was in was DUI?
Yes, sir.
Chairman Roberts, if legal could add just one thing to our memo, it should be noted that the applicant did check no under the question, have you ever been convicted of a felony on his application?
I was unaware that that was checked no. If that was checked no, it wasn't.
Filled out the application for you, sir.
Well, the new employee packet at Florence and White Ford is a very thick packet. I remember I worked that day, and I went home and had a girlfriend of mine help me fill out some of it. As far as the state sales license, I don't recall if I filled that out or if she helped me. I can't remember, but I certainly would not have checked no intentionally. I mean, I know you guys look at that, and I've had a sales license. I've sold cars for 16 years, and I do know that those licenses are checked and looked at, so I wouldn't have done that intentionally.
Questions at the moment? Commissioner Murray.
Did the friend get out of the DUI?
Yes, sir, he did.
He did. All the charges were dropped.
All charges were dropped.
I've never heard of someone getting out of a DUI.
I mean, a DUI is a misdemeanor charge, and if you, I assume the way it works, if you get someone else in trouble on a felony charge, then that overrules the whatever trouble you're in. I mean, it happens all the time. That's why police have their informants. And
well, to go out and put your friend in jail so you can get around a DUI is pretty selfish.
Obviously, he wasn't a very good friend.
I would assume he's not a friend anymore.
Pardon me?
I would assume he's not a friend.
I haven't talked to him, no. He's still selling cars, and yeah.
In the case of this DUI, all he did was keep his license. He wasn't going. There wasn't a homicide involved with this DUI. He's just trying to keep his license, so he
yes, sir.
rolls his friend up.
And that was what was very disappointing on my end of it, because I actually did think that he and I were friends. I mean, you know, we cooked out together. Like, as I said before, we played golf together, on top of work together for over 4 years. I won't say it was closer to 5, but I know it was over 4 years.
Did you bring someone with you that would like to address the commission?
Yes, sir. Miss Adria White is
Ma'am, would you like to address the commission?
Hello, my name's Adria White, and my husband's part owner of Florence and White Ford. I'm the internet manager, and Tim has been working for us since about May, beginning of May maybe, and he's been just helping in the BDC and helping the BDC manager and helping me with training some of the new salespeople, the BDC emails and things like that. I've known Tim for about 1.5 years, maybe. Well, I guess it's been a little bit longer than that. And, you know, I believe in second chances, and we have a small hometown dealership in Smithville. So, you know, word gets around fast if there's a problem with someone, and he's been very, you know, good about coming in on time. He passes all of his tests with his probation officer, and we haven't had any problems with him whatsoever. I haven't had any reason to believe that he's nothing but an upstanding person.
Questions for Ms. White?
Commissioner Jackson,
Commissioner Jackson.
I don't have any question. I was going to motion that we grant the license.
Second.
License and seconded by Commissioner Vaughn. Thank you, Ms. White. Any discussion of the motion? I'll make a comment. I have some concerns about the storyline in this. Other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, chair calls for roll call vote. Aye is for the motion to grant, and no is for is to not grant.
Chairman Roberts?
No.
Commissioner Lee?
No.
Commissioner Galvin?
No.
Commissioner Clayton?
Yes.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Melton?
Yes.
Commissioner Murray?
No.
Commissioner Norton?
No.
Commissioner Parr?
No.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Yes.
Commissioner Tomaso?
Yes.
Commissioner White? Commissioner Evans?
No.
Eight noes. 7 yeses. Motion fails.
Be applied at another time. Sir? You may reapply. You're turned down this time. You may reapply in the future. This is not permanent. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. House of Cars. This is for a dealer. Sir. Is this a application that was not approved?
And legal is passing out some additional documentation. I'll explain in just a second after you guys receive it. I will go ahead and read the memo into the record. After review of Mr. O'Rourke's dealer application and judgments, it is recommended that the Commission deny his application. Mr. O'Rourke received a final order from the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles, which revoked Mr. O'Rourke's motor vehicle dealer license in Texas. This was a result of Mr. O'Rourke, violating the provisions of the Texas Occupation Code and the Texas Transportation Code or corresponding rules. The applicant failed to operate as a dealer from a location that meets the requirements of an established and permanent place of business by not having the following: business sign, posted business hours sign, copy of respondent's motor vehicle dealer license on display, office space with, at minimum, a desk, 2 chairs, and internet access, and space to display, at minimum, 5 motor vehicles. This failure was a violation of Texas Transportation Code and Texas Administrative Code. This violation is similar to Tennessee Code Annotated 5517-114B1D. The Commission has the authority under the Regulatory Division Statute, Tennessee Code Annotated 561313, to deny Mr. O'Rourke's application for a dealer license. Under Tennessee Code Annotated 561313A1, any commission attached to the Division of Regulatory Boards may, upon receipt of a certified order, refuse to issue or renew a license, permit, or authorization to practice, and revoke, suspend, or restrict any license, permit, or authorization to practice to a person who has had the person's license, permit, or authorization to practice in the profession or occupation subject to the jurisdiction of the board, commission, or agency suspended or revoked by another state or national board, commission, or agency for any acts or omissions that would constitute grounds for discipline in this state. In this case, Mr. O'Rourke has had his license revoked by another state, Texas, and the cause for revocation, failure to meet the requirements of an established and permanent place of business, would constitute ground for discipline in this state, Tennessee. The Tennessee Motor Vehicle Division is attached to the Division of Regulatory Boards. Therefore, the Commission may choose to refuse to issue the applicant a dealer license in Tennessee to best protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennessee consumers. If the Commission chooses to refuse to issue a license to the applicant, he will have the right to appeal the Commission's decision. Documents that were just passed around came from the Texas Motor Vehicle Division. They were the corresponding documents in the case for revocation, which was noted in the final order that's in your original packet on the iPad.
Was Mr. O'Rourke doing business in Tennessee?
This was all in Texas.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The final order and all of these documents are coming from Texas, and he is applied to do business in Tennessee now.
I can probably explain this pretty quick.
Let me ask you my question real quickly. My question is, have you been selling cars in Tennessee without a license?
No.
Okay.
Not under this license, no.
Okay. Proceed, sir.
Basically what was happening in Texas was I was basically getting taken advantage of and people were stealing from me. The way it's set up in Texas is you can have 5 spaces, so there's no like salesman's license. And so what I think happened, I don't know what actually happened, but I called out one of the guys because I thought he was stealing tailgates from me. Basically what I was doing trucks. That was kind of like my specialty, and I was getting tailgates stolen from me, and I called him out. I think he took everything out of my office, called the commission, and here I am. On the flip side of that, I've been having problems with some people for a decent amount of time. And so I've been looking for a place to build my own place. So I bought a piece of property in Columbia, which I believe is down the street from you, the Roberts Toyota. And I was the developer as well as the contractor on it. I didn't have any mistakes. I have the city approval, the final approval, as well as a plot of land that shows that I own the land. So I'm very deeply invested in this, so I'm not one of these kind of like fly-by-night, so to speak. So I'm in this for the long haul.
Has this facility been inspected, Ms. Shaw?
I don't know that the facility has been inspected at this point, but he has submitted his application and all of his supporting documents. And I will add that he did self-report that he had had this problem in Texas.
The Texas Commission told me I didn't even have to tell y'all either.
I want to have a point of clarification from the commission. You can't just simply grant. It would have to be.
It would have to pass the final inspection, yes.
Yes.
Well, and regardless of what Texas says has to be disclosed, our application does ask whether or not a professional license has ever been revoked or suspended before. So it is a question on the Tennessee application.
Yes, but the lady, the reason I didn't appeal anything was she said that I was basically already on my way back. I'm from here, so she told me that wouldn't be a problem to even reapply in Texas. So I'm just here, you know.
Questions, Mr. O'Rourke?
Has he met all of the bonding and all of the issue in requiring to establish a dealership? Has he submitted all that information to staff?
He has submitted all of his documentation based on the fact that he had had a revocation in another state. It had to be brought before this body.
A question for the staff. I'm looking at in the middle where it shows all the, I guess, the contact from the Texas Motor Vehicle Commission. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it appears that there's other issues. It's not just not having a chair. Is that correct? It's really small.
Yeah, I apologize for the formatting. That's,
I don't have my glasses. It's
yeah,
okay.
it's okay. I just printed the documents as I received them from the Texas Motor Vehicle Board. With my correspondence to the legal, same position as me at the Texas Board, it was mentioned that as a brief summary of what happened in in the case in Texas was that it seemed to be a landlord was renting old businesses, old buildings and renting space to multiple dealers, and upon Texas's motor vehicle visit, there was no one there, and all of the license were revoked to all of the people renting spaces. It wasn't just that they didn't have a chair, they didn't have any business location.
Because it says curb stoning in here, and then it shows a bunch of different conversations. I guess I was trying to understand if there's more violations than just not having a place of business.
The final order only mentioned, what the license was revoked for. It's possible that they investigated other claims, but the final order, it was only revoked because of the place of business.
Texas revocation, if it happened in Tennessee, would it require a revocation also?
It would be our recommendation that it would be revoked in Tennessee.
It would be much harder to do that because they only require 5 versus 18 here as well, like passing the initial inspection and et cetera.
Did you have trouble with the Motor Vehicle Commission more regularly than just a place of business?
No.
It looks like there's, questions about curb stoning and then proper paperwork that was not produced.
I don't know what you're looking at, so it's hard for me to even.
It just shows,
I don't know what anyone is looking at, so it's hard for me to even.
Let's refer that question to our legal, if Ms. Goldstein can
The
expand
board
on
is
that.
looking at documentation from the Texas Motor Vehicle Board. It is a history of the complaints against the Big O Group and the kind of history of their decision leading up to the revocation.
Complaints to the Texas Commission?
Yes.
Complaints by consumers?
Uh, 1575 Private Road, 5510, Princeton. That was where I lived in Dallas. So after that happened, yes, I was. I didn't know that I couldn't do that, to be perfectly honest. Like now I have, brick and mortar, this is mine, I don't have any salesmen, this is me. So it's on me, so.
Yes, this, sir, so bear with us.
Is there any way I can get a copy of that as well? I have never seen this, so.
I have a question.
These documents are publicly available under the public records request, so I'm giving you something that anybody could have requested from the Texas Motor Vehicle Board.
I can show you what I have. I
think I heard a question.
Yeah, I have a question. It looks like there's a lot of information here, and there's a lot of documentation of people taking delivery in your basement or out of your basement. And during this is going on, I'm seeing curb stoning put here a lot. At what point in time did you find out you were doing something wrong? I mean, you had to know at some point in time you were not in good graces with the Motor Vehicle Commission in Texas. I'm
I was so focused on trying to get stuff right in my own way. Like basically, what happened when I found out how difficult it is for zoning to get a car dealership. You're not going to get a prime piece of real estate, and you're not going to get anything cheap unless you go way out. So I had already kind of made up my mind. I would say probably January of 2016. That I was moving back to Tennessee. So outside of that, I moved here around July of 2016.
You're saying in May of prior to that, prior to moving here, you had all these curbstone incidents, and they're very well documented. And you seem like a reasonably smart guy. I have a hard time believing that you didn't know you were doing something wrong.
I totally agree with that. That's what I'm looking at as well. I mean, it's
Like a blatant disregard of the law.
absolutely, and then just, saying you don't know the law. I mean, my concern is with Tennessee, if you're just going to say you don't know or don't understand, you're not doing your responsibility.
I would like to add that we have, legal has gone to get a copy of a complaint, a consent order that was signed against the Big O Group. A complaint was opened back in June 2016, so that information is forthcoming.
Is it a complaint filed with Texas?
To be a complaint filed in the state of Tennessee with the
In
Motor
state of
Vehicle
Tennessee?
Commission. Yes.
Okay. Would you be familiar with this complaint in the state of Tennessee?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I basically, in June, I bought 4 cars and at an auction and sold them, and I paid $500 fine on each of them.
Pay the fine too?
The commission.
Tennessee.
So that was really when I found out like I was in trouble. So.
In Tennessee? This wasn't Texas?
With Tennessee, yeah. I mean, this was with Texas and Tennessee, really.
You came out of Texas and had trouble down there, but you didn't see a problem not having a license here in Tennessee?
I bought the property in May of 2016.
So you started selling cars without a license
No.
in Tennessee?
No.
So
No, I
under
still
what
had
license?
a license.
So you still had a license from Texas?
Yeah, I
Okay.
still had to plug in my card to go to the license
But
and everything,
you
so
came
they
here to sell the cars.
allowed me.
Is that correct?
No, I did not. I bought 4 there. I bought some in Alabama. Like, I've bought some places. So.
Where did you retail those vehicles? You said the
I curbstoned them.
Here in Tennessee?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't know. Like, when I found all this stuff out is when I didn't know that you couldn't do this sort of thing. So now that I have my own, business and everything that I actually built myself, I was the contractor on it, so I have my own blood, sweat, and tears in this building and this piece of property.
Cars you bought at auction in Tennessee, you used your Texas license for that.
Yes, I did. I didn't know that I needed to transfer the title from the business name to my personal name and pay the taxes. So I had to basically pay the fine, and then I paid the taxes on those cars. So I didn't know how to sell the cars that were in the name of the Big O Group instead of changing them into, because you can sell less than 5 a year. Is that correct?
5 or less.
And
if they're registered.
That's right.
Yes. So okay. So I didn't know that. I just thought it was 5 a year. So.
Well, it's 5 or less, but those vehicles must be registered and titled to the person that's going to convey those titles. I don't mean to step over into legal.
I know. I didn't know that it was like, I didn't know that I needed to change them from basically the Big O Group to my name.
The consent order that he signed says, while unlicensed respondent sold or attempted to sell 4 motor vehicles while representing himself as a dealership named the Big O Group. So we have an agreed citation consent order where he was fined, it's $2,500, $2,000. I'll circulate this and start it from the side. Those vehicles would have been sold in the state of Tennessee, not Texas, in order for us to have taken action.
There was not a license revoked in Texas?
Yes, I didn't reappeal because I was already coming here to Tennessee, and they said even if I reappealed, I guess.
Tennessee would be appealed.
Okay, I guess if it wouldn't have mattered, so.
Mr. O'Rourke, given your issues in Texas, what have you done over the course of the last year to educate yourself on the regulations in Tennessee?
Well, I had to work with development services for the past year, so I've been learning all the people in the top places basically know who I am and where I have this piece of property in the, in their city. So
I'm not worried about the development. I'm asking a question related to the sale of cars to consumers.
As far as what now?
So you demonstrated a lack of knowledge of doing business in Texas.
I needed a place where people weren't going to steal my stuff.
That's not what I'm asking.
Okay.
I'm asking what have you learned and how have you learned how to conduct business in Tennessee that's going to comply with regulations?
I haven't started yet, but I mean, I'm willing to go to all the classes you guys have, like anything that's offered, I'm willing to go to. And that was probably my downfall, is because I didn't do that in Texas. So I just kind of jumped in and went to the auctions and then just kind of started rolling with buying trucks. So.
I'd like to make a motion that we uphold the denial of this dealer license.
Commissioner Jackson, second.
Motion to uphold the denial, Commissioner Vaughn, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. Is there any discussion of the motion? Chair will not vote on this matter. Questions, concerns, comments? Ms. Shaw, we'll have a roll call vote. I will be to deny in actuality. Not deny. Ms. Shaw.
Chairman Roberts.
Abstain.
Commissioner Lee.
Aye.
Commissioner Galvin. Commissioner Clayton. Commissioner Fox.
Aye.
Commissioner Kramer. Commissioner Jackson.
Aye.
Commissioner Melton.
Aye.
Commissioner Murray.
Aye.
Commissioner Norton. Commissioner Parr.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Commissioner Tomaso.
Aye.
Commissioner White.
Aye.
Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
Motion carries to uphold the decision of the staff and the recommendation.
Unfortunately, this will not.
Sorry?
Unfortunately, this will not. Your application is denied.
So what do I need to do?
Refer you
I
back.
have a great deal of debt in this piece of property, I mean, that I can't even use?
At this point, you would need to, well, not need to, you may revisit the legal staff.
Chairman Roberts, legal and the staff will work together to inform the applicant of his appeal rights, I believe under the regulatory division statute, and I can send the reference for that so that he can view that. I believe there is an opportunity to appeal the commission's decision. That would be the next step.
So it sounds like I should have just appealed the decision in the first place with Texas, but they told me coming to a different state, the states weren't the same.
At this point, any questions you have of that nature, you would need to contact legal.
Hey, who do I contact? I mean, I don't, like, this put me in a pretty bad spot here.
The staff will reach out to the applicant with contact information, and if an appeal is made, I would suggest the applicant retaining legal counsel.
Okay.
Conclude our appeals. Ready for the director's report, Ms. Shaw?
Take a short break.
Oh, sure. Let's take a 10-minute break. A little hard to make no sound pleasant.
In this past quarter, we have had a shortage or some staff vacancies which have been filled, and we've added some new members finally to our team, and I wanted to introduce them to you so that you could familiarize yourself with their faces and their names. And I'm going to ask Chris to stand up. Chris Russell is working with our dealer licensing. He's been with us how long now?
It'll be a month on the 26th.
About a month, and he's doing a fabulous job. And Miss Tiffany Gunter, you've been with us about the same length of time, haven't you, Tiffany? Tiffany is also in the National Guard. You serve as
I'm a truck driver in the National Guard.
truck driver in the National Guard. Is it lieutenant?
I'll be a sergeant after September.
You will also be working with dealer licensing, and we've added some great members to our team. There's one additional person, which I think she took lunch in the middle of all of this, but her name is Felicia Ballard. You may or may not see her, and she works with insurance and bonds in our office, so she's maintaining the insurance and bonds. So I just wanted you to be able to see them, and I wanted them to be able to meet you guys and see how you operate. So glad to have them with us.
Welcome to the staff.
I'll continue with the director's report, which is the traditional information that you normally receive. During the last quarter, we have opened 100 new dealers. We have a total of 3,757 licensed motor vehicle dealers in the state of Tennessee. That does include new and used dealers. We have 25 applications in progress or in process as of July 11th. We have 110 distributor manufacturers, 25 auctions, 457 representatives, 16,436 salespersons. We have 266 dismantler recyclers, 38 RV dealers, and 51 RV manufacturers. Since April, we have issued 4 motor or auto show permits with associated revenues of $800. The complaint report we have opened from April 17, 2017 to July 11, 2017. We have opened 157 complaints and closed 161. The vehicle sold number that's for the annual sales report period that ended in December 2016. This information is, I need to correct this, but we sold 1,023,639 vehicles this year. 344,103 were new vehicles, and 750,970 reported as used units. The performance metrics, we changed our reporting this month just a little bit. The department is changing the way they collect some of the information, so in order to provide you with some details, we did change the format a little, and it will stabilize as we move forward. Our days in application processing time did increase a little bit during the last period due to the fact that we did have some vacancies on staff, and we were also in the process of annual sales reporting, late annual sales reporting, and peak manufacturer auction representative distributor renewal period. So we had a peak time and I guess the perfect storm, but still we were able to maintain our licensing time at 7.23 days on average. Our productivity factor, this is against the reference you'll see CFG customer focused government goal, which aligns with the governor's dashboard. Our productivity factor is at 104%, 104.15%. The CFG goal, we were at 141% of the target that was presented to us. And in the compliance, We were at 98.3% as of June 30th, 2017. At that point in time, the complaints, the initiation or opening of the complaints has moved to a centralized complaint unit, and there will be a new format, I think, that it'll be reported in during the next cycle.
Questions for Director Shaw?
I have a few more things on the back page. This one is a little more lengthy than usual because we have, some things shifting around. I just wanted to make sure to share this information with the Commission. The MVC customer satisfaction rating from April 2017 to June 2017, the quarterly satisfaction rating for the customer service received for the subject matter expert group, which is the Commission office, was at 100%. That will differ a little bit. We do have a centralized customer service group, and the numbers are combined. So if you see that collective number, it's going to be a little different. But for the subject matter group in the Motor Vehicle Commission office, it was 100%. Revenue fees and Invitas submitted to the Department of Revenue since the passage of the legislation in 2015. This probably is you're probably wondering what this is a little bit. You'll recall that the salvage industry passed a bill about 2 years ago whereby they collected $500 from each licensed dismantler recycler to build a system to track stolen parts. It's used by the dismantling, recycling, and salvage industries. That legislation or piece of legislation ran for a period of 2 years and terminated June 30th, 2017. From the dismantler recycling license, we collected approximately, $62,500, which is just a pass-through to Department of Revenue because they're the ones responsible for bringing the system online and collecting the information or putting the information and rules and regulations in place for entering that information about the parts. So that was a total of $62,500. Disciplinary action report from April 2017 to June 2017, $72,300 was collected. The final portion has to do with the progress that the Commission is making for online transactions. Our first transactions for online initiated with the annual sales report, which went out in December and had to be reported by February of 2017. Since that time, we have had 4,228 individuals or businesses and individuals log on to the system for the first time to set up their entity account. So that's a lot of progress in a very short period of time. We've incrementally been bringing transaction types online and bringing those transaction types online in bundles, like the salespersons, for example. It's a new application, it's a transfer, it's a termination of employment, change of address. Those things are being brought on in blocks to make them user-friendly, and but the approach that we took for implementation was that first touch. So that's why we chose the annual sales report period, because that is the one time we touch every dealer in the state of Tennessee. So in that period of time, roughly 50% of the dealers use the annual sales reporting online for the first time. So we believe by doing that, they're more likely to come back, because that entity, setting up your entity account to begin with, is the thing that slows down the process. I say that because we are moving forward with other transactions and other modules, and the paper applications will no longer be available. You'll notice on your renewal notices, you did have an option to request a paper form. That option to request a paper form has been removed. Every effort possible will be made to encourage these folks, every licensed dealer, every licensee of the Motor Vehicle Commission, to use this system. And again, I want to thank Mr. Parr. I see him grinning because he did help us on some of the reviews in the beginning, and did come up and devote some of his time to help do some of the testing and his expertise. So The number being reported or that is being tracked by the department right now represents that the Motor Vehicle Commission is at 3.5% of all initial application usage. We have a much broader base of transaction types. Renewals are not at this time currently being reported in that number, but our renewals, dealer renewals, we've had 510 salespersons, we've had 1,148, and 100% of our auto auctions renewed online this time. So we're seeing great progress with that, and I say by the end of the year we'll see a much higher adoption rate when we pull those paper forms down. And in your, was this information supplied to them, Jason? Okay, I won't bore you with all of the information on what transaction types we have online, unless you want me to read through it. It's quite lengthy, but dealers, all transaction types are available on there, and I will mention this one since it affects each one of you. Initial application, renewals, the relocation, which has just been completed. That was one of our holdups in the process, was getting that relocation. Duplicate license, salesperson terminations, I would highly, highly, highly encourage you. That functionality was not there before. It was a paper process. Whomever works in your offices that is responsible for saying this person's no longer employed, notify the state that they're terminated to break that relationship. Use this online service. It's like 2 questions and it's over. You've taken care of that termination process. And the annual sales reporting feature was added also under this. That was something that was not possible. We are working so that that data will be available for the clerks in the future. It's not yet available. And then your salespersons, and this is the tricky part, Commissioner Norton, we worked with your group some on the salesperson. His team was wonderful helping to test with some of this. But that salesperson is attached to your dealership. The dealership can manage the license for the salesperson, but you'll need to set them down somewhere, have that salesperson on board for the first time, and then you can manage that license for your salesperson. That transaction is a little tricky because it is relationship dependent, and it requires both the acknowledgement by the salesperson and the approval by the dealer for them to be able to obtain that license. So, and anybody, probably made your head spin, but if you've got questions afterwards, we can work with you on it and work with your staff on it. And I won't go through everything else, but we will, we are very close to having all transaction types online. So, with that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Quite a report. Congratulations, Ms. Shaw, on the performance matrix. That's really impressive. And
a team effort, and thank you for that. It's always a team effort.
And part of the time, the staff was working about a normal number, I believe. Is that right?
We have been. We're fully staffed at this point.
141%. That's pretty remarkable. I don't know exactly how you get to that, but
well, the team is really good. We cross-train. Everyone is cross-trained, and everyone is a backup. And the atmosphere that we set in our office is, if you've got spare time and you see someone else is struggling, pick up the slack. And we really encourage that. So some person could look at it and say, well, maybe you've got more staff than you need. No, I have a great team. They stay after, they help each other, and that's the way we do it. And we set the environment in there that for you to win, someone else does not have to lose. So we all win together or we all lose together. And they all are, we select our team members by that. That's the motto we have. If that is not your mindset, you do not belong in the Motor Vehicle Commission.
Thank you to Commissioners Norton and Commissioner Parr for their contribution to the effort. Okay, is there a motion to approve the director's report?
Quick question, please.
Sure.
Ms. Shaw, the disciplinary action report, total collected is $72,300. Is that a high number, sort of a marginal number? I'm just curious about that amount.
say it's a marginal number, and I'm going to ask Jason Gillums, because he worked the complaints for so long, to speak to that.
It's a bit of a misnomer for this quarter. It is a little higher than normal. It's usually around maybe 30 or 40, so it is a little bit higher than normal, but we do have those months. Higher month. I think there's been one other one, maybe in February, where we had about a $70,000 revenue for.
At the list here, there's one that was $18,000 alone, so that's kind of skewed the numbers a little bit, I think.
If you have a large case settle with multiple infractions, because your infractions are $100 to $5,000 per infraction per the number of days, so depending on the severity and the frequency of the infraction, that's going to drive the fine, and some of those will settle, some of those will go into revocation, so it will fluctuate some.
Some of these appear on our legal review. But
Yes,
some of these,
on your legal review, what you have is the recommendation for the fines or the penalties, and then what comes out the other end is the actual collections. Mhm.
Is there a motion to approve the director's report?
Commissioner Jackson, motion to adopt.
Okay. Jackson moves to adopt, and Commissioner Schaefer Vaughn seconds. Any discussion, concerns? We'll vote on the motion by voice vote. Those in favor of the motion would say aye. Aye. And those opposed, no. Okay. Legal report. Ms. Page, Ms. Brown.
Morning, members of the commission. We have before you our legal report, as well as there was a supplement passed out that's just 3 cases. Is anyone missing that by chance? I passed them out before everyone was seated. Okay. I know that we talked about it in committee, but there are a few things, at least from the way that this is. Let me start from the beginning. Shalina Brown has joined us as disciplinary counsel in place of Matthew Reddish. I'm not sure if that was announced at our last meeting or not, but I'm happy to have Shalina with me. And Shalina's actually legal supervisors on our floor, has been with the department for some time, and I've already learned a lot working with her, so I think she'll be a good asset to the motor vehicle team. But the way that we've done this report is similar to how Matt and I were doing it before, where cases that were assigned to me are all together, cases that were assigned to Shalina are all together, and at the end we also have represents. And additionally, we also, this time around, I had a supplement of 3 cases. Those were all mine. We've numbered them individually, so 1 through the 70s, and the first set are mine, and the second set are Shalina's. As far as things I'd like to add about the complaint, or about the legal report this time, is that one of them, and in fact, this is going to be different than the committee, and I hope that you'll understand. On complaint number 36, I read 2 additional complaints into the record at the committee meeting. However, even in that time, we've had additional complaints come in. And so what I'd like to do, if the commission would entertain me, is this is a matter of a dealership that's closed down, and many consumers had titles being held by floor planners of vehicles that they had purchased. And additionally, many consumers who maybe did have titles paid sales tax that wasn't ever remitted to the state. There's many agencies involved in this dealership. The community is aware of what's going on there. But as a result of that, as well as some positive media attention, I know staff worked to make sure that our media team here at the department had good information to give to consumers. We've been getting in quite a bit of complaints of people trying to make sure that their grievance is recorded so that they can go forward in other avenues, whether that's court or wherever they end up going, to become titled. But as a result, we're having complaints coming in at a fairly rapid pace. At the previous, the committee meeting, I read 2 additional complaints in, but what I'd actually like to request is, in addition to the revocation as my recommendation, if I could have the authority of this commission to have all future complaints that are at least factually similar to those move to formal hearings, formal charges authorized, so that I could just wrap them into my revocation hearing. Because the reality is this case will probably go on for a little bit of time. Or he may, I know that the owner isn't working in the industry anymore, so honestly they may just sign a revocation and be done with it. So I just request my recommendation be amended to give the authority for any similar complaints from that dealership to go ahead and not have to come back every time and get approval on those. So I think that's one of the major changes I'd like to add from even this morning. I apologize.
Identify that dealer?
Yes.
Is there a number?
Oh, yes, it's number 36 on the very first section, page 16 of the legal report. It's the one that has lots of complaints. You'll see right in the middle.
So the recommendation is for authority to move those complaints drafted correctly. Is that in, Ms. Page?
That will do it. I appreciate that.
Would you like to read it a little more succinctly, and we'll...
Oh, sure, for the motion. I think the way I would phrase the motion would be make a motion to recommend revocation, and additionally, any additional complaints, legal staff may push to formal charges. I think that would probably get it done.
Item number 36, page 16. Commissioner Clayton, would that suit as your motion? Okay, all right. Moved by Commissioner Clayton. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Vaughn. Any discussion? By voice vote, aye will be for the motion and no will be against the motion. Those in favor of the motion, aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Okay.
Good afternoon. This is Shalina Brown. In my section, there was some discussion by the subcommittee concerning number 12 and proper documentation. I have checked on that, and I'm still waiting for a few more things, so I'm going to withdraw number 12 from the legal report and bring it back to the board at a future meeting.
Up that?
Probably, if it's going to be an omission from the legal report, I would think we would need a motion to adopt that.
Commissioner Jackson motion that we adopt number 12 to be re-evaluated and brought back at another meeting.
Mr. Galvin, reason for that was with a violation as severe, as serious as this one, I think the legal committee felt like we'll do this by voice vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
On my complaint number 44, the committee caught that I had accidentally left off my recommendation for closure on that, so it just blinked after the recommendation. I apologize. So if you do get to that one, that one will be to close that case, if there's any questions on that one.
Already on the record, so we'll leave that one as it is.
This time, if there's any questions, we would be happy to take questions on any cases if any of the full members of the commission have any additional questions to that the committee asked. And otherwise, I'll leave it to you.
Motion that we adopt the legal report with the adjustments.
I second it.
It's Commissioner Jackson, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Jackson to adopt the legal review report, and seconded by Commissioner Melton. Any discussions or concerns? Hearing none. Chair calls for a voice vote. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed would say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Does the legal staff have a legislative report? Anything to report?
For the legislative update, nothing really has changed since the update that we gave you back in April, but we did want to notify the board that we did send out a notify to all the licensees that had specific legislation that affect their licenses, and that it was sent out to everyone. We haven't had any feedback from any licensees yet.
It's an update and not a committee report, so I don't think we need a vote. Anything, Rules Committee, anything to report? Nothing to report.
We did have 2 rules move through joint GovOps that the Rules Committee had recommended to the full commission. The commission had voted on some time back. And this past week, it moved through GovOps, the rule where the ability to deny a license to an individual that was part of a part of a corporation. I'm not explaining this very well, but go ahead.
When the individual is a dealership and they're presenting themselves as a sole proprietor or an LLC, a certain different type of legal entity, we changed the rule to allow the board to deny a license if the person behind the legal entity had the felony on their record.
And the other rule that moved through was on the record keeping for temporary tags, the electronic format, and the numeric order of the paper tags. So it's still moving through the process, but it did go to committee this last week.
And the 6633 rule that the staff and legal has been working on is now at the stage with the governor's office, so they're reviewing it for constitutionality, and we'll hear back from them in a week or 2.
Audit Committee met April 24th, and on that committee, chaired by Commissioner Clayton, are Commissioners Melton and Commissioner Parr, and the chair.
Not a lot to report. The year ends for the Audit Committee on June 30th. For a forecast for next year, which will be starting July 1 through 2018. August, that will get that.
Budget is right at $2 million per fiscal year. And our revenue and our expenses were close but positive. Okay. Any questions for the Audit Committee? All right. We would need to vote to approve that report. Is there a motion to adopt or approve the Audit Committee report?
Second, Commissioner Jackson.
Commissioner Vaughn makes the motion, Commissioner Jackson seconds. All those in favor of approving the Audit Budget Committee report would say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay. Ms. Shaw, are we ready for new business?
New business. The commission, old business, out of sequence.
Calendar
Thank you.
2018 calendars also.
Thank you. That's why I have a good team, keep me straight. The dates for the 17-18 calendar meeting dates for the commission are proposed and presented to the commission for consideration. The dates, the 4 mandatory quarterly meetings are outlined, then potential committee meeting dates, and then the special dates are outlined for what would be used for either formal hearings or ALJ dates only. So it's for consideration and hopefully adoption so we can move forward with scheduling.
Motion to approve the
Second.
calendar. Motion Commissioner Clayton, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. By voice vote, all those in favor of the motion to approve the 2018 calendar dates say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Then you have the questionnaire form.
The appeal questionnaire form, we are continually looking for opportunities to improve within the commission office. And one of the areas, or one of the things that's been identified within the office, is the way that the appeal process is handled. The requirements actually state that in order for a person to appear before the commission on appeal, that they would submit that request in writing. Well, it doesn't specify what they need to bring. It basically, we receive a letter. So then when they appeal before you guys, it appears to us that we could improve the process by developing a form that asked some of those frequently asked questions that the commission would normally ask for those documents, so it would streamline that process. So what we did is we designed a form so that when an applicant ultimately is denied an application, their application is denied for whatever the circumstances are, that when they receive the letter telling them that they're denied, they would also receive this form that says, if you wish to request an appeal, please complete this form and attach your documents. That information could then be used to schedule them, get them on the docket, get them on the calendar, and then put it in with their appeal packet that you see when the individuals do appear before the commission. So we would ask that you would approve this form so that we could put it into use before the next meeting. We think it'll be a very valuable improvement to the process.
Want to circulate the form, or?
Was it on there? It's on there. Here.
It's really a good form. I like it a lot.
I give all
Takes a
thanks to the
village. Thank you,
forms
village.
to the form crafter wizard over here, Jason Gillum.
It's very nicely written as well.
And I'll say legal, everybody pitched in, but all I had to do was think of the idea, and they carried it the rest of the way.
And legal also thinks that it's really valuable not only to speed up the appeal process, but also to give the applicants a better knowledge of what to expect when they come in here. A lot of times we get phone calls and they say, is this going to be like court? What am I supposed to say to the commission? And this questionnaire kind of gives them a heads up that these are the types of questions they might get asked to embellish on a little bit when they come before the commission.
I have a question. I think this form's a great idea. It has some questions here we can repetitively ask. But will this give the staff time to verify that the stuff they put on the form is true? Like, for example, prior arrest. A lot of times we ask the person with the appeal if they've ever had any priors, and they say no. Well, we don't know that for sure, so it'd be helpful for this information to be verified.
It would probably be up to the staff and the director or the board whether or not you would want us to pull the information on their prior arrests. That's not what legal looks at as far as whether or not we legally can grant or deny their license. It's just the most recent conviction and whether or not that sentence has ended before 5 years. But if that's something that the board would like us to look into, we can discuss
I think
that.
this information would be based on what they provide to us. Currently, at this time, we do not have access to TBI database. By statute or rule, that is not an authority that's granted specifically to the Motor Vehicle Commission at this time. We may want to look at that in the future. So we're relying on them to self-report or through the limited access, through their background disclosure form that they sign with the office, which is during the application process, which is a process that's been in place for many years. So it's not the end-all, be-all, but I think it is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, so too.
I'd like to make a motion we approve the use of the new form.
Motion by Commissioner Vaughn, seconded by Commissioner Norton or Galvin. Norton. And Galvin. This is a big one. All right, by voice vote, those in favor of the motion to adopt the appeal request form, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. I'd be afraid to say no after two people seconded it.
I think some people are passionate about this.
Yeah.
We're very serious.
Very, very popular. All right. Old business, then, Ms. Shaw.
Okay. Let me see if I can get back to old business. The old business, we are presenting the, I'm trying to find mine. Actually, we're presenting the application, or the inspection form to the commission. The commission actually approved this inspection form about 2 years ago, and there's some changes being made to the form based on changes in rules during that period of time. And so we would ask that the commission approve this revised form so that we can then go through the forms process, have an official number assigned to it, and it can be implemented by the inspection and enforcement group. I think one of the changes had to do with we had the rule that regarding 6633, and we had certain disclosures like the rebuilt disclosure forms that are supposed to be in the file. Those are things that occurred. So it would ask that the enforcement group, in addition to the things that were originally approved, also check for these things that have been passed in rules since that time.
This is an update.
This is an update to the form that you passed 2 years ago.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the updates to the dealer inspection form.
Approved. Commissioner Vaughn, seconded by Commissioner Lee. Any concerns? Motion. Hearing none, we'll go by vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve the form, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries. You're on a good streak, Ms. Shaw.
That's all of the old business, yes.
That's it. Brings us to adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn. Thank you all for attending. Thank you, and welcome new staff. Motion to adjourn, and by voice vote, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Thank you.
I did.